Hello and welcome to Monkeys with Fire. You join me tonight for another painting workshop with Pascal, and this evening he'll be continuing painting the 1 to 10 scale face from Sunshine figures with materials from Instar and Game Envy. Right then, I think we're all good and ready to get going. And good evening, Pascal.
Hi guys, thanks for being here, and I'm excited to be here actually. So I'm really anxious to go ahead.
All right. So what's the plan for tonight? I mean, is it worth maybe doing a little bit of a catch up on what we did last time?
Definitely gonna do that. In the first video, in the previous installment, we were discussing about skin tones. Showing you how to make a skin tone with just 3 colors that I picked from Instar Games, and how we set up a first basic tone and then put in the volumes with shades and highlights. And before I did that, I did a bit of theory by showing you a flat image of the head and just drawn in thick lines to show you where all the geometric shapes are, and in that way you can really easily identify where shades or where highlights should be. Then I've shown you just by drawing it in with pencils how it would be done on the miniature later on, and then we just did that. In the meantime, in the past 3 weeks, I've seen a couple of end results already pop online. I've even had a couple emails asking me for feedback, which was amazing. And it was a real thrill to see that everybody got on board really, really good. There were literally no bad examples that I saw. Everything was really, really good. And each and every one had his own unique tint or style or color in their skin tones, but everybody got their volumes just right. So I'm really already very proud of everyone that I saw. So here's to you guys. So tonight's going to be I think a bit more difficult, because today is about being able to handle the consistency of your paint really, really well, just to manage it in the correct way. But it's also maybe the most fun part. We're going to paint the eyes first, because that's often the most frustrating and also the most eye-catching part of the model. Going to do those first. Then we're going to look at some makeup. And when we've finished that, we're going to look at the hair. And I hope we can all put it into one show and be finished by tonight. But if we just look at the eye itself, the first thing we've got to do is make it all black. And this is probably the first mistake a lot of people make, because if we do not make it black first, after this I'm gonna paint it in with a white color. I'm not gonna be using pure white, but something else. And if I do it correctly, I'm gonna get this black line around it. And just having that line, how thin it may be, this will set the eye apart from its surroundings. So we've got the eye painted all black, then painted with a off-white. And usually I'm using something like bone, or I'm just using like the lightest base color of my skin tone. That's also a good reference to use. Just put in a lot of white. When I'm painting it in, I'm trying to do the entire globe, but these corners might be a bit darker. These and these. You could do that with by leaving it black, but what you could also do is just paint it white, and afterwards get some dark red or maybe just some pure red and make those corners a bit more reddish. Then we're going to go for the iris and the lens and etc. So first of all, what I'm trying to do when I'm doing eyes, I'm just going to put a small dot, probably end up like a dot like this, and it might be something like this, off-shaped or whatever. It's not really important, but so you know this is the center of your eye. what I always try to do is have the circle of the eye be higher, so let's say over here, than the eye itself. If you're going to do it like this, from here to there, then it's unnatural. But in my case, I'm going to make it a bit more higher, so it's going to end up like this, and often just barely touching, or not even touching the lower side. So it's going to be like this. There's a bit up here that you're not able to see. So this way I'm gonna, and I can just make this all black. That's no problem. So you can just sketch in a bit and then fill it in, and I'm gonna make this all black. There we go. That's already looking like an eye. If your eye is the size of a like a 28 millimeter figure, this is all you need to do, and you're done. But our eye is a lot bigger. The same with what I just said about painting a dark line around the eye. I'm gonna fill this black globe in with white, just pure white. And in that case, it's saturated. I'm gonna have like a black line around it. And this is white, and this is all black. And I'm gonna make it white because I want to have a good base color for any color that I want the eye painted in. If I want to paint a dark color, then this is not too important. If I want to make some bright blue eyes, then it's really important that this is white, because it's gonna enhance the brightness of the blue. When I've got this, then I'm gonna paint in a color. Let's say I'm gonna take blue, and then add in a bit of shade color and shade it towards like in this fashion. So it's gonna get darker on top, and it's gonna be lighter below. And just keep on adding shade until you're on top really dark. After I've done this, all I want to do is make a very bright highlight of my color near white. Not pure white, but near white. Just offset it from the center, a bit like this. You could also choose the other way, it's whatever your preference is. But the brightest point should be either this way or the other way. So I've got light here, which is pretty bright, and darker up here. Then we're gonna take black again. So I'm gonna do this with pen. So this is pure black. All right. And now I'm gonna paint in the iris. Is it the iris? I always forget which one it is. And I'm trying to do a little dot in here. But it's not a problem if your dot is ending up like this, which is like a droplet shape or oval or whatever. As long as this side is fairly shaped well, because then we're going to have a cast shadow in your eye, because your upper eyelid is going to cast a shadow into your eye, which is something like this. You can make this all black again. You can take either one of those sides, this side or this side, that you could easily fade away into this color, but it's which makes it much more interesting. It's not really super important. The fun thing is if you've got really big, really well-defined eyes that you can work with, really intense and really small, you can even do a couple of spikes like these to emulate the nerves. But in this eye, it will not be happening, I guess. So the last bit we're going to do here is make a pure bright dot in here, and it's really got to be the brightest white you can get, and do not thin your paint too much, and make a dot that is overlapping the iris, the shaded area, and your normal color. There's gonna be a dot over here, and I'm not being able to draw that. So step one, painting black. And I'm finding that if you thin your black really thin, it flows easily with your strokes and with the shape of the eye. Just don't thin it too much. No, it's not going to be a wash. Just thin enough to easily go along. The thing is with eyes, there's always one eye that's going to be your bad one. And actually, this eye is always my bad side. If your tip is really sharp, just push it into the end, draw it outwards, and that way you get a nice tip at the in your eye at the end. Make sure it's dry. Now this is going to be a bright color over black, and you want it to cover really good. But don't thin it too much, or make sure you're doing a lot of passes, a lot of covers. And again, the sculpt might be aiding you a bit, because you could easily see where an iris is going to be, etc. You could also tell yourself to just paint where you see the whites. I'm trying to get that line underneath, the black line, as thin as possible. And it's often easier to subtract from that black to make it thinner than it would be to add in a black line later, and which will probably be too thick. And the fun is, because the sculpt is going to help me, because I already know where the center is going to be, which is right there. This is what I said. Oh, that's an ugly dot, right? But I don't care, because I know I'm on cue, and then I'm gonna color in the entire circle. Even that is already defined by the sculpt. It's a bit too big to my taste, but it'll work. It's no problem. I've just picked up some white. Pure white. I'm going to color that dot in again. Because of the sculpt, I'll probably leave the center iris open. But I've got to make sure to leave that black line outwards. Actually, the only thing I'm doing is drawing in a U shape. But now I've got the settings primed for some coloring, and I wanted to give her like a blue-grayish kind of eye color. I'm gonna start off with some blue-gray. All I gotta do is just paint over all that white. And I'm gonna add a bit more of my original dark sea blue, making a darker shade of it. I'm just going to shade upwards towards that upper eyelid. I'm going to take some more white. I'm just going to make a small line underneath it. Just keep that black outer edge intact. I'm going to go back to black. I'm going to dot that iris. And now I've got to make a really good shape, which is going to be hard today. There, it's a really tiny dot, just there. That's the tiny dot. And there's that upper eyelid shade. And now we just make the eye glimmer. Take your strong white. Don't thin too much. Make sure your brush is really sharp and small. Just the smallest dot. Hold my breath here. There. Oh, there we go.
Yeah, we can see the white dot. Yeah, oh yeah, there you go. There you go, stay there.
There it is.
There it is.
And that's the whole thing. So what we're we're gonna do, step one, I always start with the blush because it's probably the easiest thing, and which is gonna be in here, the side of the cheek. Be careful not to put too much in here. There's mostly the sides of the cheek, and actually more here than there, and it's gonna be in here as well. All right. This is going to be looking like a bit of a makeup doll like this, but this is just exaggerated. I'm going to paint it in really hard, but it's not going to be that hard. I'm going to use a glaze for this, and it's really thin. And I can put it in 2 or 3 times, and then it's already done. And I can use that same glaze to make this part of her nose a bit more red, just slightly. Towards there. This is looking like a clown now. Afterwards, we can easily do a bit of highlight again in here to make a glint. Cannot do that with red, obviously, to make it not too red. The first thing I'm going to do is going to paint the eyelashes, and we did that black line over here, and that's actually going to help us right now. So this is the upper eyelid, and this part over here is actually eyelash. So we can easily make this bigger and make a thick line out of it, just this part underneath. Then we're going to do the same with the lower eyelid. I'm going to make it broader on this side and just go thinner towards the middle to hardly any at all. Once we've done those in black, then we can go to any color that we would like to paint our eyeshadow in. You can do, like you saw in the previous examples, you can do this one color and do this another color. For ease, I'm going to do everything in the same color, although I'll be starting with a like an orange brown and do this and make it a bit darker in here. Go lighter, 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 and go darker towards the out and just fade it into the skin. And then do the same here and here. Probably add just a little bit of red into that tone, just to offset it from that place. We're gonna do the eyebrows. You can do it with black, but it depends on what color of hair you're gonna try. If you're gonna do blonde, always do a brown. This part here, that's the top of the eye. This is a raised area over here. So it's leaning on that edge here, and then it's leaning on that edge. This is the edge. And this is all above the edge. So this is the edge. You can roughly sketch it in, and then as big or as small as you would like it, you can make a eyebrow. And there's all kinds of shapes of eyebrows. So have a go at what you would like to do. And now you can do 2 things. Either make this shape, fill it in, or you can fill it in by drawing lines. And on purpose, here and there, just go out of that, that shape, as if it's a bit rougher. Last part is the mouth, and for the mouth I'm going to do a bit of the same color I'm using here, the same orange browns, but I'm probably going to be adding a bit more red in just for the lushness. And as you can see already in the drawing here, the lower eyelid is darker. Just follow those lips, make them dark, highlight color. It's not really a highlight color. You can also already make a highlight on top, there and there. And those highlights are going to be as bright as the brightest highlight here. And this lower lip is going to be much lighter. Sure you get the shape correct, but you've got to create some good volumes here. So take it towards this edge a bit darker. Take it underneath a bit darker. and that edge is going to be darker. You could even do a bit of darkening in here, like that. And the cool thing to do is with probably the same dark color as you did this, is create 2 or 3 lines, really small, with a bit of a curve, somewhere in the middle, or maybe like that. And then we've got an extreme, we're probably going to use, it depends on how glossy you want your lipstick to be. If you're going to do really glossy lipstick, you've got to use the same kind of white dot as we did in the eye, just bam, put it on there. And in this part, I probably would do a bit of a dot in here. And you can play with this, you can make it a dot, or you can follow those lines that you did before and do something like that. One thing I forgot is that chin often gets a bit of reddish tone as well. Shall we go to the actual practice? I'm going to take some really bright red. This is Model Air, just red. This is as thin as I want it. It's really thin. I'd rather have it too thin at this stage than too thick. We're here. And just do that. Gonna take that same red, gonna do a tip of her nose, taking it towards her nose. Now the thing is, we did a really bright highlight on top of that, and by doing this, you're gonna turn it really red, and that's not a problem. Look at this. I'm also taking a bit of those nostrils with me, just a bit. It's just gonna give her a bit of life in there, and that really bright highlight we can just paint in later. No problem. And in previous experiments, I've also used this same glaze to color those lips. I can even show you now if we've done shades and highlights already on those lips. I could just color them in with a glaze, and they would already look really good. I always have an extra brush on the side. If you see that it's going too hard, or you want those edges just blended in, just lick your brush quickly and use your saliva to blend everything in. So now we're going to go to the eyes. I'm going to go first with pure black. Make it thin again so it flows really nice with you. Not too thin so it's going to go runny. Starting from the inside and drawing it outwards. So I can start thin. So you gotta make sure that you paint the underside, and then we take it a bit upwards, not too much because there's a lot of eyelid in there, but there's also eyelash. Now this side part here, this is not eyelid anymore. This is all eyelash. We're gonna go over to the eyeshadow. When we did the skin color, we already took into account to make it darker here underneath, but leave the eyelids lighter. So we're already seeing that. And this is actually helping us to do the shading and the highlights on the eyeshadow. So for this, I'm going to use a orange-brown color. I'm going to go towards a glaze consistency. It can be a bit thicker than we did with the red. And I can just paint it in. I'm going to make sure to not touch the eyelid just yet, just the space in between the eyebrow. You can take this as far sidewards as you want. If you want to do it really avant-garde-ish, then you can go all the way with all kinds of shapes and whatnot. We can do the lower eyelid with this as well if you like. If you can see in the example, there was also some shading on below. Now I'm going to add a bit of like a darker red-brown to it. This is brown leather. Darker on the outside, just a bit of a line towards the eyelid, darker on the inside. And this color I can use to make an outline underneath that lower eyelid. I'm going to create a highlight of this base color, and I'm just going to use the golden sand here because it's on my palette. It's something that it just makes it lighter. And that's what I'm going to use to create a bit of a highlight. How's that looking? So these are quite brown earth kind of tones, which will blend easily into the skin color. A really good color for makeup, if you're not sure what color to use, is a purple. Either a pinkish purple or a more reddish purple. But it will do nicely. So that's the eyebrow, the eyeshadow, and last but not least, on the eye part is going to be the eyebrow. And I'm going to create a really dark brown, which is near black. And I'm going to create a consistency that will cover, but it's still thin, so I can create thin lines. And I'm still doing this everything with the spear, guys, so it's a number 1. I can easily do this with a 000, but this is a really good brush for it. So this line here is the top ridge, and the eyebrows should be on top of that. There we go. Right, so much for the eye. I'm going to go over to the mouth. I've done it with that glaze of red previously, but I'm going to do it with the eyeshadow color now. I'm going to put in more red in it, so it's going to be a much redder brown. I do not need to paint the upper eyelid too much. This is already really dark up there. If you're going to do really thick, bright lipstick, make sure to make these edges here really sharp and into a point. And I'm going to create a shade color out of this. Make sure that lower lip really has volume. So it's got to create some shade on the side, underneath, and on that side. And like I said, if you can, you could even do like a single dimple in this case, or you can do really thin strokes just to have it some shape in the middle. I'm going to create a lighter tone, bit of a highlight color, so that we can create a bit more volume in that lip. I'm going to take it up near to that dimple. There we go. And now I'm going to go for that really bright white, and then I'm going to put a dot there. Often I'm going to do like a bigger dot here, and then just a really tiny dot in the next to it. There we go. Now the trick for hair is not to, like I said, not to see the individual strands, and at the beginning it's just easiest to see it as one whole, and then gradually just painting in the shades and then later on the highlights. As we previously did some darkness underneath, we're going to leave it there. So we're just going to fill it in, and that's beautiful red color. That's really a lovely color. You can do this fairly quick because of the black lining you did earlier. You can just take the side of the brush and just stroke it, and it's done. I'm gonna add some black to this color. So gotta remember, I wanted to have it dark on top. I'm gonna have a reflection up here. First of all, I'm gonna put in some shades to give some shape to the strands here and there. I'm not gonna define every strand here, just some very noticeable ones. This center is gonna be dark. It's really important to get a sense of how all these shapes work, as they bulge out upwards before they go down, and it's at the apex of that bulge where the reflection often hits. Doing this line work also helps you getting a sense of all the volumes and all the shapes and how that hair is positioned and all. Also, what I'm now going to do is put some shades in to get the entirety of the spherical form of it. So we did the darkness up here. I'm also going to do a bit on the back, because this is definitely going to be a shaded area, heavily shaded area. I'm just going to do a bit of sketching in. This is a shaded part from just the general light. This is going to be part of the reflection darkness, as I would like to call it. I'm envisioning my reflection going here. This is one reflection, main reflection here. Then it's probably going to end up, it's going to end here. It's not going to go all the way around, it's going to end here. And then I've got a second crown that's going to be on top of here. This is in between the two reflections. I've just made a really dark shade color. This is near black. This is actually black with just a hint of that red. And I'm going to pick out where those darkest shades should be. So, one, it's the shades that just are created because there's one big chunk of hair lying on top of the other. And it's just for identifying separate shapes. Make sure not to overdo the black lines in those areas where the reflection is going to be, because if it's good reflection, there's hardly going to be any really dark shadows in there. So be sparingly with it. I'm going to go back to my midtone, my previous red, my first red. I'm going to create a little bit of a lighter version of it. But I've got to be careful, because if I'm going to add in white, I'm going to create a pink. Probably going to need to add something like a yellowish white, like the golden sand. This is going to be like a first highlight, and also again for individual strands, but also for the first part of the reflection. First of all, let's do some individual stranding where we think, well, it's cool if you see the redness come out in there. You can do edge highlighting with this, etc., just to create that sense of, oh, well, there's a shape out there. When I'm painting into the reflection area, I'm painting much more area than individual strands, and I'm not afraid to blow out some of the previously painted shades. I'm gonna create a brightness in here, because I want to change the color of this bit of hair. Let's do that reflection. Try to think of this as a picture where there's always one major reflection, and all other reflections, especially on the entire other side, should be less intense than this one. And just do it with strokes, strokes, strokes. Try to keep in mind a certain flow of your hairs. Try to keep the reflection connected with each other. Just really play with this. Just try out different shapes, and what do you think how the light would play on those surfaces. So if you got this figured out, so this is going to be the rough shape, I'm going to go back to one of my previous red colors, and I'm going to create slightly a glaze. I'm just going to blend in a bit of those colors. And I'm taking up both a bit of that reflection and both a bit of that dark shade underneath, creating much more redness, much more gradient, etc. Just play with it, guys. It's if you make a mistake, it's not wrong. It's all happy accidents and stuff. And now we're also going to pure white. I'm gonna take it up. I'm not gonna go from this edge to this edge. I'm gonna go in the middle, but that middle is gonna be more upwards than downwards. So my brightness is gonna be in this area, this line. I'm gonna try to be a bit neater with this. This has got to really pop. I also got to be careful not to overdo it. If you think this is too hard for any reason, and I can believe that you would think this, just take a bit of a previous color make a fine thin glaze out of it, and just glaze over it, and just glaze over the color, and tie it all in a bit more. The only thing I wanted to do is make this strand of hair a bit more luscious red. So I'm just taking pure red, and I'll see what happens if I just glaze it over. Will it be the kind of red that I would like? Because it is a glaze, all the shades and all the highlights are gonna be added to it still. Here we go.
Excellent. Great stuff. Thank you so much, as always, Pascal, for the workshop this evening.
Very welcome. And I think that the only thing that's left to say is class dismissed. Bye-bye, guys. Have fun with it, okay? Cheers.
That is the end of tonight's workshop. Wow, we've got a lot to think about and then to action over these next 3 weeks. So as Pascal was saying, we've got a couple of weeks to get our heads up to a level as far as we possibly can, following his guidance, and then we will all come together to basically take a look at each other's work via the Discord server. But until then, take care, have a good evening, bye for now.